Yeah. So basically, as Kathy said that today we are going to learn about Salesforce DX because this is kind of like the hot technology or the hot tool which is provided by Salesforce, and it is getting we'll say that upgraded every 4 months with the new features. So that's what we are going to talk over here in today's session. So as Kathy already has given the introduction about me, so I'll not take much time over here. So I'm also like Salesforce MVP, which is 3 times I have been recognized as a Salesforce MVP, and I have recently started leading the group, which is Salesforce Architect Group for Kanpur, India. And I'll say if I say or if I talk about my working hours, which are 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. So I hope Kathy, you have started the recording.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So basically, what we are going to talk about is before we start, there is a statement, the hyper, will say that safe harbor statement, which we are going to see. What will be the part of that particular statement? Then we'll talk about what exactly the Salesforce DX is, which is also known as Salesforce Developer Experience. Then there are few commands, and out of those commands, we are only going to focus on force and auth commands because these are the important ones that you will be working mostly in your project as a developer, as an admin, or even as a DevOps engineer. And then we are going to see the complete life cycle of a project, basically starting from creating a project, authentication, user, and deploying all those things we are going to see as a live demo. So before we start, this is a safe harbor statement. That means both the speakers and the organizers are here with their individual capacity. We are not representing any organization, not representing any companies. Any statement that we do made is not intended for any marketing purpose. So basically, whatever, if I make any statement like that sounds like a marketing statement, please ignore that. And this is not like the presentation is not for any kind of promotional activities. This is again, we are here to learn the things together. So if the same solution or the same kind of we'll say that the solution does not work for your business, then we are not responsible, like we both speaker and organizer are not responsible for this if the solution doesn't work for you. And if we make any such statement, say that okay, whatever the decision you are making for your organization, please make by taking what is there present in the organization. Don't make like take any decision what might come into the near future. So what is there, based on that, just take the decision. So now let's quickly talk about like what Salesforce DX is. Okay, so Salesforce DX is known as Salesforce Developer Experience, and this was introduced by Salesforce in order to improve the, I will say that, the experience for the developers, the development experience. When we talk about the development experience, that means the way we are trying to develop the multiple components like FS classes, Lightning Web Components, Aura components, or say that static resources, custom labels, or any custom fields, objects. So this was completely revamped. Salesforce has given us the tool which is basically designed to improve the developer experience. And this is again like this is a kind of CLI tool which we have. You can run the commands. You already have some VS Code extensions, you can use that. But the sole purpose for this session will be we are going to execute all the commands from the CLI. We'll say that CLI, that means we are going to execute all the commands from the command prompt. So there are various features of developer experience. We might be only knowing about Salesforce CLI, but it has multiple features like the Salesforce CLI, which is already there known as SFDX. Then there is something called integrated development environment. This is also a part of Salesforce CLI. Then DevHub and Scratch.org you might be using or you might not be using. Second generation package, the very important concept, or we'll say that very important things or the feature which came up as a part of SFDX. Salesforce DevOps is also one place where this Salesforce DX is playing a very big role in order to implement CI/CD for any organization. So these days, if we talk about, most of the organization are using Salesforce DX to implement the CI/CD, including the version control system and other controlling with the help of Salesforce DX. So if we talk about commands, there are various commands which we have as a part of SFDX. So SFDX is something which will say that it is your say that some keyword which we have to use. Again, it is keyword for Salesforce developer experience. Alias commands are there. There are few alias commands that we can use in order to set the alias for a particular username. Okay, so when we say that particular username, say that you have something, some username with the 50 character or 250 characters, or somewhere 40 or 10 or 5 characters. You wanted to give the start name. This is again, alias is also looks like a nickname. You can give the nickname. Okay, this is, you're giving the nickname, and that will be easily identifiable when you are working with the projects. Auth commands are the commands which we are going to use in order to authenticate our Salesforce org. It might be your Salesforce developer, sandbox, or production environment. Config commands are again to just to see the configuration. You can configure. We are not going to look into these config commands. Force command. 90% of the time you are going to play around with these force commands, and force commands will have all the commands like related to your development. It can be creating apex classes, executing apex, executing test cases, retrieving or deploying the metadata, or creating a user, assigning the permission set, working with the data. So every single thing is going to come under this force command. And then there is also something called information command that we can also use. There are various documents, but I have already shared one link into the chat window, which is a GitHub link, which already have all the materials that we are using in this session. I'm also going to include the presentation as well. So force commands are, we'll say that as we talked about, force commands are very important commands that we are going to use over here. And these commands are used to develop on top of Salesforce environment with the help of SFDX, which is Salesforce CLI. Okay. Before we actually go ahead and talk about what we can do with force commands or what all we can do with the auth commands, let's quickly talk about how to set up this Salesforce CLI. The Salesforce DX is also known as Salesforce CLI. So how we can set up this, and then after that, we are going to talk about how we can actually take the example of the whole life cycle of a particular project. Okay. So in order to set up this particular Salesforce DX or Salesforce CLI, what you have to do is you just need to search for download Salesforce CLI. You can search over Google, and the very first link that you will get is going to be your target link. Just click on that link, and then you will see this particular kind of interface where you will find, okay, what environment, that means what platform you are using. For me, it is Windows. For you might be Mac or Linux. Based on what you are using, just go ahead and select that platform, and then you have to download that. Okay. So by default, it will automatically detect which platform you are in. If you are opening this link on the Mac OS, it will automatically highlight that Mac OS for you, and you can just click on and download that SFDX. Okay. So once you download, you have to install it. I already have installed, and I'll not show you this software installation as a part of this demo. So just go ahead and click on this. You might be using 64-bit or 86 for your Windows. You can just download it, and you have once you have downloaded, just install it. Okay. After installation, you need to confirm if the installation was successful or not. So to confirm that, just use command prompt. Okay. So for command prompt, what I did is I used the short keys, which was Control R, sorry, Window R for Windows, and for Mac OS, you can search for terminal, and then there you can just search for sfdx hyphen version. If you type this command and hit enter, it is going to show you like what is the sfdx version, what is the node version, and what platform for your Windows is. Okay, like for whatever the platform you are using. So it says that I'm under sfdx CLI 7.1.34. This is the latest version, might be the lower latest. 64 version of the Windows I'm using, and this is my node version, which is coming along with this Salesforce CLI. Okay, that is going to be, if you see like this, or if you see sfdx is not recognized as internal or external command, then you need to go ahead and restart your machine. After restarting, you need to again search for this, sorry, uh, type this command and hit. You are going to see the same thing. If not, then you have to you can reach out to me or anyone in the community, but what you have to do is basically you have to set the path for your Salesforce DX. Okay, so this is like, I'm just going to open a notepad. I'll say if you get the error, say that sfdx is not recognized internal or external command. And what you need to do is set the path, okay, set the path for SFDX under environment variable, and this will only be the problem inside Windows. For Mac and Linux, it is going to work automatically. But so if you get that error, just set the path of SFDX under environment variable. Okay. And if you don't know how to set that, you can Google it like how to set the path, and you will be able to find out the step-by-step solution over the Google. Okay. That's what you have to do before you actually get to start and follow the demo along with me. Okay. So now let's come back to our force commands where we talked about, okay, force commands are used to develop the various components, which might be metadata, or it might be some classes, components, fields, objects, static resources, or anything that you can create with this SFDX. Okay. What all we can do here is some of the things over here I have mentioned, like we can create a project inside our local machine, okay, which is going to be our PC, and this is going to have a different format, the complete different format, which is again going to be recognized by SFDX. You can retrieve and deploy the metadata from org or to org. You can even create the users. You can assign the permission sets to the user. You can remove the permission set from the user. You can do that. As we have also talked about, we can create the metadata components like Apex, LWC, or say that static resources, permission sets, many more things. We can create the 2Z packages, which is again second generation package, which is also known as what that basically there is three kind of package. One is unmanaged, and there is managed package, and there is one more which is known as second generation package, which you can also create. Okay, we'll not talk about this in the demo. SFDX commands can be used inside DevOps for retrieving, deploying, running the test cases, or retrieving the reports of test cases, even generating the data. Data means like you are inserting or updating some data inside the org. You can also do that. Then we have got auth commands. So basically, for auth command is the first step. After that, we actually go with the force commands. Okay. So auth commands is again going to like gives you the ability to authenticate Salesforce using different mechanism like auth 2.0, ZWT. Okay, most of the time you guys might be using auth 2.0 because you will be using Visual Studio Code for the development. If you are not using Visual Studio Code, then you will be using ZWT for implementing CI/CD. So this is ZWT will be more useful when you are implementing CI/CD, and auth 2.0 will be more useful when you are doing the development with the help of your Visual Studio Code, or even with the help of the commands that you are doing. Okay, and this is what basically we had as a part of slides. Now everything we are going to see in a complete project lifecycle. Okay, so what happens whenever you as a developer comes for the first time and start developing? That's what from where we are going to start. Okay, so before we actually go ahead, I will show you. Okay, here this is the link I have already shared in the chat window. Okay, this is the GitHub link. You will find every single thing that I'm going to use except PPT. That will be updated soon. After the session, I'll update that. And here you are also going to see whatever we have just discussed. Okay, all the commands that we are going to use over here, what is the use of these commands, how to get these commands, and every single thing that we are going to use. Okay, again, this is a one document which is also there in the readme file. Under below, if you go there, you will find SFDX resource, and there is something called a unified Salesforce CLI, which is also there, also known as SF commands. Okay, so these are the two links that you can also get as a part of reference. Now if you go there and open this SFDX resource, okay, you will see this is something called SFDX, and there is something called SF. Okay, and these are the commands that we talked about, like auth, alias, config, force, and info, right? So the very first thing, what happens as a developer, you come into, like, you go to the organization, you join the organization, and they ask you to develop, say that they ask you to develop a lightning web component. So what you do is you say, okay, you have to set up the Visual Studio Code. You do the setup of VS Code extensions, and then start development. So the very first step what you do is you create a project. Okay, so I'll say here, sorry, let it be like this. The very first step you do is create project. But usually you create a project with the help of, we'll say that extension, right? So what we will do is we'll create a project with the help of the commands, with the help of the CLI. Okay. So this is the folder basically where I'm working in. So I'll go to my location where actually I wanted to create the project. Say that I wanted to create the project under this folder, and then I'll just go there and say, okay, I wanted to have this something. I wanted to open the command prompt. So how I did open is I selected the bar, okay, and then I typed CMD and hit enter. So it is going to open the CMD at the correct location wherever I am. Okay. So once we have got it, the very first step we are going to create the project. So before we go ahead, let me quickly increase the size. Okay. Yep. So we will create the project. So for creating the project, what commands we have? There are two options that you can either you can use the commands provided by me, but the second option I will prefer, which is going ahead into the document, okay, and search for what command we need to use for creating a project. So for creating a project, either you can search for, okay, Salesforce DX command. Forget about the typo. Okay, command to create the project. If you search for it, you will say, okay, create a Salesforce project DX or something. You got it, or you say create a Salesforce DX project, right? If you click on this, because this is the official link that we have, it is going to take you to the command, and you will see, okay, this is how you create a project. SFDX is a keyword, force is the category of command. Okay, then what you want to uh, deal with the project, then you wanted to create the project. Okay, then you have to give, say that hyphen n, which is going to say that, okay, what is the name of project? You can say my project. Okay, and then you can also use the templates. What is going to be template? Either standard or it can be custom. You see here, standard or custom, right? These are some examples that you have. So if you want to create a project, the very we'll say that the project that you can create is, you say, okay, you can say you wanted to perform something related to, say that SFDS force colon project. Then you say that you wanted to create, then what is the name of project? You will say that my project. You can use like this as well. Then you can say that hyphen template. Okay, what kind of template it is? The valid values is standard. There will be more values as well, you can do as well. Okay, and then there is one more thing that you can use is something called as manifest. Okay, this is, you see here, this is the complete command, sfdx force project create hyphen m. What is the name? And you can also say that hyphen manifest. I'll tell you what is the use case of this hyphen manifest. Okay, I'll tell you this is, okay, and then hit enter. It is going to take time. It is going to create a folder inside the same location where you are in, and the folder name will be my project. Okay, under that folder there will be multiple directories. So now let's quickly get back to the location. You see here I've got a, okay, that there was a typo mistake, so I've got this something called a folder. Okay, under that folder I've got something .vs code, config, scripts, manifest. Okay, so this is the folder which comes if you use hyphen manifest. And this manifest folder contains one important file, which is package.xml. And this package.xml will be used to retrieve the data from the org or to deploy the data to the org. Okay, that is why this manifest is very important. Force application and then main, then default. This is the location where you will be creating all your components. You will say that applications or aura applications, aura components, classes, content assets, flexi pages, layouts, lightning web components, objects, permission sets, static resources, tabs, triggers. Even you can create many more like workflow rules, custom labels, lightning messaging services. There are many more metadata folders you can create over here. And by default there will be nothing as such in this project. Okay, so as a developer you came in, you created a project. Okay, now you might wanted to say that here I have some commands. So we did created a project. Okay, we did created a project, that was fine. Now I have to tell, okay, I have created a project, but for which particular org, or I will say that under which particular org I'm going to deploy or retrieve the data. Okay, So what we are going to do is we have to authenticate our project. Okay, so to authenticate our project, what is a command? We have auth commands. Okay, this is the auth command, where sfdx is again something which is going to be same for all the commands. Okay, auth is the category from where I wanted to use from the web, and then what I wanted to do is I wanted to log in. Okay, then I will say hyphen r. I can provide the login URL. It could be login.salesforce.com. If you are using sandbox, it will be test.salesforce.com. Okay, hyphen a is the alias. Okay, and you can say whatever the alias is. Say that you are working for a client which might be say that Microsoft. You can say you can type it over here Microsoft, right? Or you're working for some client and then you are authorizing with the org which is partial, right? So you can say here, okay, client name hyphen partial. So this nickname is going to help you to identify which particular project and which org you are connected in. Okay, hyphen d says that okay, you are going to make sure this is a default org, and hyphen s is again going to make sure that okay, this is a default org. If you want to learn more about this, again go to the document, which is going to be this, like Salesforce CLI commands. And which command we are talking is, we are talking with auth namespace and web commands. Okay, we've got auth namespace, then there is something called web commands, and this is the login one we are talking about. Okay, so you will see this is a command syntax. Then you can use these variable along with that, hyphen JSON, what is the log label, hyphen I if you have client ID, hyphen R the instance URL. It might be login.salesforce.com, test.salesforce.com, or some custom domain if you have enabled, hyphen D, hyphen S, and hyphen A. If you wanted to learn about what all these parameters are, you just need to scroll down. Okay, find out what exactly this hyphen R is, what exactly the hyphen D is going to say that okay, this is a default dev hub username. Okay, it says that this is also the default username, hyphen S. Okay, alias, all those kind of the attributes you can just learn from here. So what we will do is we'll just go ahead and copy this. This is going to be my particular uh, command that I'm going to log in over here, and I'll just now to run this login command, what we have to do is we have to go get inside the project directory. If I try to run this from here, let me quickly paste that command. If I got it, okay, I'll copy it again. If I paste it over here and try to run it, let's see what happens. Okay, it is basically opening a browser and we can select whatever we wanted to have. Okay, but what we will do is usually what we have to do is we have to say okay, we need to go to the project directory. So we'll say that cd hyphen my whatever the project we have, and then here we need to execute that command, so that we can say okay, inside this project, this is the org which I wanted to authenticate with. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and then if I wanted to give, okay, if you go there, there is something called, okay, not here, we don't have something. Okay, so what we will do is we'll go there and hit enter. So you have to select your username and password over here. Okay, you just select whatever you have got. Say that I'm selecting my org username and password over here and log in it. So if you are successfully authorized, okay, it is going to take you to the your org, whatever your org is, and then you will be over here. Say that okay, whatever you have, just come back to the command and you will say successfully authorized with this particular username, and this is going to be org ID. So you created a project, you did the authorization. Okay. Now next thing is that what you have to do is you might wanted to create the user inside your org. So you can either create the user from from going to Salesforce and say okay, you wanted to create a user from the setup, or what you can do is you can even use the command to create the users. Okay, so to do that you can just go there and see there is something called force user commands. Okay, force namespace under that user commands. So for creating a user, this is the command. Now these are the various options that we can have. So we say, okay, we wanted to create a user with the alias test user one. Okay, this is going to be our config, and then profile name, whatever the profile we have. Okay, or we wanted to say this, we are going to create a user with the username this, email is this, and then permission set if we have multiple permission set to assign to the user. Okay, or what we can say is we have to create a user, then there is some configuration project user definition. Okay, user definition file is going to contain the detail about your username, email, and all those things, and then you say generate password equal to true. You can follow all these options to generate the passwords. I will see if I have a file for this particular creating the user. If we have, we will see, otherwise we'll skip that command. So basically I don't have that file, but if you want to learn more about to create the users, you just go there again to command. This is your document, and this time you will go to the force namespace, and under that force namespace you will find something called users, and then you need to create a user, right? So you will find it something over here, sfdx force user create, what is the alias, where is your configuration for the user, what is the profile name, permission set. All these three commands, four I have shown you, right? Then you talk about, you go there and find out, okay, what every single attribute means. You wanted to display the user information, you wanted to generate the password for a user, you wanted to assign the permission set. So you can do multiple things over here with the help of commands itself. You don't need to go to Salesforce even. You are here inside local system and you are doing every single thing with the help of commands. Okay, once you have like created the password or generated the password, again these are the commands, and if you go with these commands like generating the password, this is very simple command for generating the password. Then if you want to specify the length, you can also specify the length as a 12. If you want to give the complexity of the password, -c equal to 3, and where you will find what complexity you wanted to specify is, you go there again to the component, say that you wanted to generate the password. You will see here what is the complexity we provided as 3, so it will say that there should be one lower, one uppercase, and the numbers only. If you wanted to have some special characters, you can provide this number 5 as a complexity. Okay, so that's what you have. Again, these are the examples that we have got. These are the explanation about all the attributes that you can use for this particular command, which is force user password generate. Okay, so for what you did, you created a project, you authenticated with the org, you assigned the, like you created or user, and then you generated the password. Once you have, you might wanted to assign some sort of permission set to the user. Okay, because most of the time you get the admin access. You like whenever you are sign up for your developer org, you are usually the super admin access. Okay, you get the super admin access. But as a developer, when you will be working for any company, that you won't get the admin access. You will be having some set of permission sets. Okay, and so they will, like the admin or the Salesforce admin will be knowing, okay, uh, whenever we need to create a developer, these are some predefined permission set that we need to assign. Okay, so that is why we'll say, okay, we have something, again user and then permission set, we need to do assign. We can provide multiple permission set. After -n we say that, okay, dream house, large dream house, or we can say password never expires. These kind of commands we can permission set we can assign to the user. Even we can specify a particular username, or we can specify multiple usernames. Okay, and every single thing is there again in the document. If you go there and say you wanted to learn about how to assign the permission set to the user, you will see what exactly we have got. Okay, so that is all about our user commands. Okay, then say that, okay, you've done all this, now the time is to develop some components, might be Apex class or Lightning Web component. So how you can do that? So again, you have force Apex commands. Okay, so if you go there under force commands, force namespace, you will find something called Apex. Now what you need to do is you need to create the Apex, right? Or you might wanted to run the test cases, or you might wanted to create the Apex trigger, you might wanted to create the logs, you wanted to execute some anonymous window. Every single thing you can have, right? So this is something we say that we wanted to create a class. So I'll copy event from here and go there into my command prompt. I'll say I wanted to create a class with the name my class. So okay, there is a typo, like we've got dollar or something, so we need to remove that. So as soon as you execute this command, it is going to create a class file. Okay, and where, what will be the directory for class file? Let's quickly see where exactly it did create it. So if you go to the project, not scripts, if you go to the project, you see it created the class file over here, which is the topmost, we'll say that hierarchy, the folder hierarchy. But where actually we want is, we want inside force app, then main, then default, then classes. This is our structure where we want to create that class. So how we can do that? So we will say, okay, we have a class my class, and we'll say hyphen d. Where you need to store is, you need to go to force. Okay, you need to go to the directory called force. Okay, what force app, then under that you have got something called default, under that you have got main, then you have got classes. Okay, this is the directory that you have, and then hit enter. So now what it is going to do is, it is going to place your class under this directory. So now you see, now it says that where exactly it did created the class file. Now if you go there, oh, I think there was some force main default, I think. Oh yeah, we actually given the different root. Okay, it should be force, and then we've got main, and then it should be default, and hit enter. So this is going to be, now it is going to create the class here. Now you see the class is here, right? Then there was some folder which we created, actually force, what is the one, main default. So default, this one is going to be deleted. Okay, so this is our folder where we got the class. Now similarly, if you wanted to create some lightning web components, so this is the command, like lightning commands. There are two type of lightning components, right? One is type of aura, one is type of lwc. So you need to use force lightning component you wanted to create. What is the name of your component, and then you have to provide what is a type. Okay, type is lwc, and then you have to provide what, where exactly you wanted to create the directory, right? So let's quickly copy this. This is the command that I've just copied. I'll just go ahead and clear this. Then I have to provide a directory. Then again it is going to be force app, it is going to be main, not like this. You have to tell, okay, from root directory we need to go to force app, then main, default, and then it is going to be lwc is the folder there. So if you hit enter, it is going to create a lightning web component for you. Okay, it did create a called my component.js. If you go there into the folder directory under lwc, you will find there is a folder called my component. Okay, now you said, okay, I created a component, I created a class, now I wanted to do the deployment. So how you can do the deployment? So there are two ways to do the deployment. If you are working with scratch orgs, okay, there is a concept of scratch org. If you're working with these orgs, these are the commands that you have to tell. Okay, sfdx force source pull, this is going to deploy. Okay, and then sfdx force source, sorry, push is going to be deploy, and pull is going to be retrieve. These are the two commands, very simple commands for your scratch org. But if you are working with non-scratch org, which we have used in our case, then what you have to do is, you have to use sfdx force source. Instead of push, you need to say deploy, and then you need to tell the path. You need to say, okay, from which particular directory you wanted to do the deployment. Okay, so I'll tell you. Let's quickly copy this again. Go there and say from path. What is your path? So this is your path up to here. Okay, you just copy it. So what you will say is, you need to go to root directory, and then force app, you'll go to main, then you go to default. Say that if you wanted to deploy a specific something, say that you wanted to deploy only classes, so you say classes. If you don't wanted to, like if you wanted to deploy everything which is there inside default folder, that means all these components, then you will say, okay, just go ahead and find that directory and deploy whatever the components that you find inside that. Okay, so you see it says that deploying with the soap api version 53.0, This is the deployment ID. And if you wanted to see this in your org, go to the org and search for deployment status. You see here deployment in progress, and this is deploying the components, who is deploying, admin user, and deployment was succeeded. Okay, that is how you can deploy. But there are other things, like you might wanted to think, okay, while we are deploying, we wanted to say that run some test classes, right? So how we can do that? So for that, again, you have to go to the documents. Under force commands, we are talking about source, right? So we'll find out source. Then under source, we're talking about deploy. So we'll go there and find the deploy. And then you will see here, there are various things that we've got, like what is a path. Then you can provide multiple paths as well with the help of a comma separated. Even we can specify what particular item we wanted to deploy. And then if you scroll down below there, you'll find multiple things, like what if you wanted to profile or like deploy profile something, you wanted to run some test cases. Okay, this is what you wanted to run, the test cases as well, run local test or run all test, there should be run specified test as well, right? Then you have something called post destructive changes. You can also have pre or post, right? So for this, say that you wanted to run local test as well, run local tests. So you go there here, we are going to, okay, the deployment is completed. You see here the status, every single thing, what was deployed and information about that. So that you wanted to run the, sorry, what was that? Let me run local test, right? So we'll just go there. It was run local test. If you do this, like if you use this command to execute the deployment, and you again go to the deployment status, okay, we'll go there under deployment status and try to find out what is going on there now. So you see here it says that there are two components which we are trying to deploy, and this time the test cases are waiting, right? Test class will is start executing if there are any test class for this particular org that I do have. Okay, so we'll see here if you are able to get those. So this is still in waiting, right? The deployment is going on. Even if you go there in your say that command, it is say that okay, the deployment is in progress. Okay, so we will wait for these deployments. This is still happening, and we'll go to the next command. Say you have deployed and all these things, right? Then for deployment, there is again one API which is called as metadata API, used in like basically used in CI/CD for DevOps, especially for non-scratch orgs. Okay, so you have to again use metadata API to deploy the data, provide which directory you wanted to deploy, and then you can see the report as well. Again, every information for all the attributes, how to run the check, like validation only, how to deploy with the test class runs, all these kind of things you will get inside the document. So now you have to go to again to the document. This time we are not using source, we are using MD API. So we'll go there and say you are using deploy, so you'll say MD API deploy. Okay, there are various options, we're not covering all. You can see here these are the options or the attributes we can provide as a part of these commands. What is the API version? -C is going to indicate check only, it is only going to validate, not deployment. From where you want it to deploy, what is the run test labels, if you wanted to specify some specific class to run, then you can use this. Then what is the username, all these things you can just go there and run about this. Okay, and if you see here what it did is it ran 328 classes and there was 328 errors. Okay, and it was failed. So basically I got it failed, but that's fine. And you will see all the error over here, it says that there is some class and all these things, right? So now you just worked on the development, you also deployed, you wanted to create some data or you wanted to query some data. So how you can do that? For that we have got data commands. Okay, so say that you wanted to do a query, then we have got query command. So what we will do is we'll again go to the document. Then you've got something called data commands. You go there and you will see, okay, you wanted to query, or you wanted to export, or you wanted to import, you wanted to create the specific record, you wanted to um, get the specific data. Every single thing is there. Okay, say that you wanted to just get the list of all the contacts, or you wanted to get the list accounts. So you just go there and execute, you'll get it. Okay, so let's quickly, I'm executing this SQL query to get the accounts where the state is in CA and New York. Okay, California and New York. You even you see here it says the deployment failed, failing 328 and all these things. So you just go ahead and get that query. You can prepare this query whatever your query is, and you see here I've got total number of 2 records. It says that Amit Biotechnology and then Central per Coffee. These are the 2 records based on this condition that I have got. So that is how you do the query. But we mainly focus on creating the data, because okay, we did the development. Now we need to do the thorough testing of our development so that we can make sure there is nothing which is breaking. Okay. To do that, we have options to create the data, or we can import the data which is there in multiple formats. Okay. Say that we wanted to import account and contacts. So for that, we have something called force data tree import, right? This is again, you're going to import the data for related objects. Okay. So this is how we import the data. Either we can say sfdx force data tree import, then we provide where is our file, and you can have multiple files, comma separated, and for which username. Okay. Or what you can do is you can say there is something plan file. Okay, where you specified, okay, for account which object it is, for invoice, or for opportunity, for lead, multiple objects you can import. Okay, so there is something I'll show you. I got it from online. Okay, so I'll go there to the root directory, and there is a folder called data. Okay, now what I will do is I'll just go ahead and copy this data folder, and under this particular force app, I'm going to not there, I'll paste it over here itself. Okay, so this data folder has 3 files. One is CSV, we are not going to use, sorry, 4 files. The CSV we are not going to use, but the accounts, this is containing the information about accounts. Okay, the name, type, and phone. This is how you have to prepare the file if you want to insert any object. Attributes, you need to tell the object API name, and then reference ID, whatever the reference ID you want. It must be unique. Okay, so I have total 10 contacts, 10 reference, sorry, 10 account, 10 reference IDs. Then there is contacts related to the accounts. I have a file called contacts. It also have the attributes. Okay, then what it says that account ID, and it says that at the rate account reference 1. So what will happen, account is going to be created, and whatever the ID will be there, this particular contact, sorry, this particular contact will be associated under that account. Okay, then similarly we've got all these information for multiple contacts. There is a field called picture which is underscore underscore C, that might not exist in my org. If not exist, we'll get we'll see, okay, that is failing. Okay, and then there is a plan file which says that for s object it is account, save references, make sure it is true, resolve reference false, and then from where we are getting the data, files. If you have multiple files, you can specify comma separated. Accounts.json, this is the name of my file which is there inside data folder. Similarly we are doing for the contact. Okay, to execute this, what you have to do is you have to execute the command which is here mentioned. This is the command that you have to execute. Okay, p is your plan file, and then hyphen u, then you have to give the username. Okay, so now I have some same file over here to import. Let's say that we wanted to import this file. Okay, this is the, again, data plan is the file name. So go there and execute this. So data plan is the file name. If you go there, you see data plan is the file name. That's what we are using over here. It says that we cannot process your request because you don't have access to picture on contact. You see here, this is the custom field that I don't have access to. Now if you go there, if I go there into the org and try to create that field under contact, I might have that field. It's not there, so I'll just go ahead and create this. This is basically, this is a URL type field. So I will say URL picture and save it. I'm just saving it. Okay. Now if I go ahead and run the command again, it should insert the data and give the information to me after inserting that. So what we did is we followed a complete life cycle for creating a project and then doing all those things. You see here we've got the IDs and all, every single thing which is done. Now say okay, every single thing is done. Now you wanted to open your org, okay, to see what you have done and you to test it. Okay, so to do that you have got sfdx source colon org colon open, and it is going to open your org without, because you have already logged in, so it will just go ahead and open your org, and that's it. That is what you have with the sfdx commands. And again you have, like, there is one more which I'm not going to cover over here for the limits, but again you have to do the practice. I have been walking you through with the various documents, various commands, because I know where to go for which particular task. Okay, but if you want, you have to again do the practice as much as you can do. Similar, you just go ahead and do anything you want similarly like we have done over here. Then there are the resources you already have. Again, I'm going to share this link. If you have joined late, I'll just share that link with you, which is if containing every single thing for you. Okay, so just go ahead and find repositories. Okay, this is the public repository that you will get, and you will access what all we have covered over here in this. Okay, then what we have is at last what we have is say that okay, now you did is all these commands manually, right? You said okay, as a developer I ran all these commands. Now what I want to do is I want to say I want to execute these commands at one go. I create somewhere and then I go there and execute that file, and it does every single thing. Boom, right? After creating the project itself. So how you can do that is okay, even you can also create the project, you can authenticate, and every single thing you can do from there. So we will I will assume that you created a project, you authenticated. Now there are some certain set of commands that you wanted to execute. Okay, so let's say this is the command that you wanted to execute. You wanted to create a scratch org. Okay, you say you created a project and then you have some metadata already there inside that project which you got from the github or somewhere else. Then you wanted to create a scratch org. Okay, after creating the scratch org you wanted to generate the password for the user. Then you wanted to push the data you wanted to push the metadata to your org. You wanted to assign a specific permission set to the user which was created. You wanted to import some data, and once everything is done you wanted to open that org. Every single thing you wanted to automate it. Okay, so how you can do that? For this I have again this is a batch file which I have developed, which is again already there in the github. Okay, so the file name is what is that okay, I have got this file auto sfdx. Okay, I'll just copy this and have this inside my project under main directory. This also auto sfdx is over here. Okay, and then there is one thing, I have this permission set which says that password never expires, which I'm again going to put inside the permission sets folder. Okay, and this is my permission set which I am assigning actually in my particular command. You see here, this is here. Now I wanted to execute this command. Okay, so how you are going to say that you created a project, you authenticated with the org, rest of things you wanted to do like create a scratch org and doing multiple things, pushing, assigning the permissions and all, how you can do that. So you are here under project, right? And you are already there under my project. Okay, so what you need to do is you just need to say okay, auto sfdx.batch. Okay, it says that what it says, okay, see it, it says that whatever it has, enter the org name. Okay, it says that enter the name of the org you wanted to use. So I'll say that okay, WIT Kolkata org. Okay, hit enter. What it is saying is it is now executing this command which is trying to create the scratch org for me. Okay, so this is again creating the scratch org. This is the command that you have to do, execute. It says that sfdx force colon org colon create. Okay, basically, there was an error, right? We have seen it says that the sign up request failed because this organization has reached its active limit. So basically, there was error, and then again, all the commands will fail. But if that particular org doesn't have active limit, let me quickly close this. I'll go to the org, and under that org, there is an object called active scratch org. Okay, I already have basically three active scratch org, and as a developer, you can only have three active scratch org in the developer org. Okay, in the production org, you can have multiple. So I'm just going to delete few of them. Okay, two of them, not all. So now this time again, I'll execute this command, which is auto sfdx batch. It is again going to ask me the name. So I'll say that like VIT Kolkata, and then it is again executing that. This time we will see if that particular sorry, this command is creating the scratch org, posting the data, assigning the permission set, creating the data, and all those things or not. Okay, so like this is basically executing. I would like to see if Kathy, we have got any questions so far.
Yes, Amit, we have lots of questions.
Hmm.
So let me read out for you. The first question is, can we create new objects and fields using commands?
No, we cannot create. If you want, you have to. What you have to do is say that under force.com folder, go to the main default. There is a objects, right? So what you have to do is first you have to you can import some custom object is if it is there in your org. Okay, import means you will get the structure, the package.xml. If you don't, you have to again go to find like object structure, right? So that object structure XML Salesforce. So you have to get it and you have to do it manually. Again, creating the object fields, permission sets, all this is requires the, we'll say that the deep knowledge of your package.xml, or if I say deep knowledge of XML. So you cannot do that from there. So if you want, you create all those things in your org and then retrieve it from there.
Okay, the next question is, update picklist value set API name through VS or Salesforce CLI?
Yes, that's possible. You can get it those, say you have some field. I don't have any field basically. But let me see if I can show you. Hmm, let me see, open recent. So basically what you have to do is first you have to fetch that file, okay, which is your sfdx file. Sorry, not sfdx, the picklist file. I'll see if I've got some object over here. Is type plan invoice fields. This is not the picklist field. So you can see here, this is a picklist field, right? We've got value set. Now what you want is you want to update the API name, right? So you say, okay, you've got full name. This is your API name, and label is the one which user sees. So you just go there, find change whatever you want, and then just do the deployment. It is going to change it in your Salesforce org. But changing the picklist API name is going to break your existing process. So you have to do the thorough impact analysis before you actually do this. But if to answer your question, yes, we can do that.
Okay. The next question is there any command which will revert the deployment automatically if deployment gets failed in the org?
So if deployment gets failed, it is not going to deploy. It is in failed state.
Okay. What are the pros and cons when using Salesforce CLI over VS Code?
VS Code even itself use Salesforce CLI. There is nothing else is that which VS Code has its own. In VS Code, basically you get some commands which are already there. You just need to use command palette and select what you want it to do, and it will do for you. In CLI, in when I say CLI, that means in command prompt, you have to know, okay, this is the command I have to execute. That's the only thing. But Salesforce CLI is being used inside VS Code.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, if we have to revert some days before deployment in the org without using new package, is it possible in this method?
What we want?
We want to revert some days without using new package.
We wanted to revert somewhat.
I think the question is not clear. Abhishek, I would request you to question it again. Moving on to the next question.
Hmm.
Do we have pre-commit hooks for SFDX before deploying components?
I don't know what you're talking about pre-commit hooks, but you have like you if you want to execute something before the deployment happens, you can use pre-destructive file. You might want to delete something. That is something pre and post destructive files are there, but
Okay.
I don't think there is something called as hook and all those.
Okay. Relating to the question that was there about the deployment failure, I see there is one more question. Even when the deployment was a fail, how are the components deployed? Will it do a partial deployment?
No, it will never.
Okay. The
It
last
will
question
always be
that
failed.
Okay, the last question that we are taking is why do we need to enable Dev Hub to create scratch org of the Dev org?
So DevHub, if you don't enable it, will not let you to create the scratch org. Basically, there are few objects which are standard object, which only comes or which only appears in the org if you enable a particular feature. Okay, so basically DevHub is a feature which you, when you enable that DevHub, what happens? There are two objects which becomes available to you. One is active scratch org and one is scratch orgs. So when you try to create the scratch org, basically what it is doing is it is creating a record for that particular object, which is known as scratch org, as well as for the object called active scratch org. So if those objects are not available, it will not create. Okay, that's why we have to enable it. And we can only enable DevOps in production and developer environments, not in sandboxes.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we are done with the questions.
Okay, so one last thing that we were running is okay, we got it. Basically, there was which worked. If you see here, let me show you. From here the org was created. Okay, creating a scratch org, and then the org was created. You see here, this was the username and this was the outcome that we have got. It also says that okay, this is the username and this is the password. Okay, then it did deployment and we got it. Then it ran the password like permission. We also did the permission assigned. Okay, we got it, permission assignment. And then it says that we could not process your request because you don't have access to the picture field. Yeah, because we don't have a picture field, that's why we got that error. Otherwise everything went well and we got that org opened over here, and this is our org. If you wanted to verify, you can just go to the apples class, and then you will find it over here. Your class is here, my class. Okay, so that is how it actually works. Again, this is the link where you will get everything. I'll update the ppt out over there as well.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the session.